Hi, I'm Michael Gross, host of the B&O Railroad Museum Television Network. This locomotive is the William Mason, probably the best-known movie star at the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. Spanning over 4 decades, Hollywood produced several major motion pictures that featured 9 locomotives and rail cars in the B&O Railroad Museum's collection. The William Mason is the museum's most prominent movie star. It has appeared in 5 Hollywood films. In 1956, it starred as the Civil War locomotive general alongside actor Fess Parker in the Civil War drama The Great Locomotive Chase. The following year, it made an appearance in the Oscar-nominated movie Raintree County, starring Elizabeth Taylor.
And here, the biggest prop of all, this century-old locomotive hauled cross-country on its own flat car from a Baltimore museum. While at the station, the cast awaits the grand entrance.
In 1998, Warner Brothers Studios chose the B&O's William Mason to co-star in the remake of the Western comedy Wild Wild West with actors Will Smith, Kevin Kline, and Salma Hayek. The William Mason underwent a 14-month restoration for this appearance that resulted in making the locomotive fully operational. It traveled to Idaho and California for filming.
It was a film where the art department, which designs the film, right? Mm-hmm. Art department, production designer, comes up with ideas, and then you try and follow through on them. And in this case, we needed an engine that was identical to the Wanderer, which was the film in the Wild Wild West series. I mean, the train in the Wild West series. But here's an example. This is the William Mason, which was the locomotive that we selected out of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum, built in 1856. And we restored it from top to bottom,
the same way?
And that's what it looked like when we were done. And when they would give me a drawing of what the cars should look like, knowing I had to lift them and move them, 12, 15 times, I used boxcars. And I cut the tops off of them, and then Warner Brothers built those bodies on them out of wood.
4 years later, in 2002, the William Mason made an appearance in the Walt Disney film Tuck Everlasting, starring Ben Kingsley and Sissy Spacek.
There's a man who's been following us.
In 2003, the William Mason was on the set for the Ted Turner film Gods and Generals.
Colonel Jackson.
Colonel Trimble, understand your train man.
Baltimore and Ohio. Spent most of my life building those lines up in Maryland, and the past 6 months tearing them up. No use in leaving them in such fine fettle for the meddling Yankee. If you'll excuse me, sir. Got to move these men where they do the most damage to the enemy.
The museum's replica of the locomotive Lafayette also made several appearances in Hollywood films. In 1937, it debuted in the Oscar-nominated historical western Wells Fargo. 2 years later, it was featured in another historical western, Stand Up and Fight.
Battling the tough competition of the early railroad era, a fighting fool, answering fire with fire. Come on, stand up and fight.
The Lafayette co-starred alongside the B&O's William Mason in the 1956 Great Locomotive Chase. Finally, director Steven Spielberg chose the Lafayette and the museum's 2 early passenger coaches for a role in the 1997 movie Amistad, starring Morgan Freeman and Anthony Hopkins. The locomotive, B&O number 147, Thatcher Perkins, was featured with 2 of the museum's coaches in the 1950 film Rock Island Trail. In 1956, The A.J. Cromwell and Coach number 445 made an appearance in the romantic comedy The Swan, starring Grace Kelly. The salon car, Edward G. Hooper, was featured in the 1959 historical crime thriller FBI Story, starring actor Jimmy Stewart. Parts of which popular HBO series was filmed on site at the B&O Railroad Museum? We'll find out after this commercial break.
Thomas the Tank Engine's visiting B&O Railroad Museum. Kids of all ages can enjoy a ride with Thomas the Tank Engine and meet Sir Topham Hatt. There'll be storytelling, live entertainment, and much, much more. Don't miss Day Out with Thomas, the leader of the track tour.
I've been working on the railroad.
I've been working on the railroad all the live long day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away. Can you hear the whistle blowing? Rise up so early in the morn. Can you hear the
In addition to major Hollywood production appearances, the B&O Railroad Museum was featured in HBO's award-winning Baltimore-based series, The Wire. Many of the museum's locomotives and rolling stock have played starring roles in numerous HBO, National Public Television, and network television specials and series. Most of these movie stars are on exhibit at the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore. Plan a visit and see these stars up close. This is Michael Gross, and thanks for watching the B&O Railroad Museum Television Network.
Interested in learning more about the B&O Railroad Museum and Ellicott City Station? Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, with daily updates on upcoming events, coupons, photographs, history, and things to do in Baltimore. You'll never be off track.